You may remember back in 1997, an alien interview video went viral. Many shrugged it off as a hoax, but there was one individual by the name of Jon Stewart that dedicated many years of his life in the search to find out whether this alien interview was in fact a hoax. Throughout his journey, he got information that might just shock you. So on today's video, I have got Jon Stewart here to tell us about his information that he found out about this alien interview. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Caspersight. I've got a very, very special guest today, Jon Stewart. Jon, pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for taking, because I know that you're busy. And I know that's almost like a default thing that people say, but I know for a fact that you're busy, just purely because of this case closed thing that you've been doing.
Yeah.
But I want to just start off by saying about where I am, because I think that'll give you a bit of an understanding of what sort of terminology and things to use with me and a lot of my viewers, because my channel started off with like the paranormal, as in the ghosts and things like that, right? And it was January of this year when I really started to go like 50-50 with my content, because in January this year, this huge event, which you probably know about, which happened in Miami Mall, Bayside, with these apparent shadow aliens being seen. That just interested me straight away, because even as a kid, I've been interested in aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs, and things like that. And I just feel blessed now that I actually can just make content about it and talk about it. And I remember seeing this video of the alien interview, and I've got to be honest with you, I was gobsmacked. I was like, this looks so realistic and so, but I was just mixed with emotions, because when I saw it, I was like, I feel really sorry for this thing.
What many people think, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, because I could see this thing, like it was like urging or coughing or struggling for breath, and I felt like part of me thought I shouldn't be feeling this way towards this, because it's probably fake in my mind. It's probably fake, right? And also it's not human. So why am I feeling this way? But obviously, I've asked you on today just to talk to me and the audience about start from the beginning. Who are you? Where are you from? How did you discover this? And I'll leave it over to you.
Yeah. I'm 57 years old. I born and raised in the Chicago area. I was a high school, college football player. And my freshman year of football in college, I became a professional wrestler. I wrestled. My biggest stint was for the AWA, which was on ESPN at the time.
I've seen the clips.
From 1988 to 91. So it has aged. You know, I'm an old guy. And it's funny that you asked that, because, and then I became a businessman in the automobile industry and in real estate. And it was in 97. I'm a part-time pro wrestler. I'm running for public office in Chicago. I'm living in downtown Chicago in this high-rise condominium, and just living like a baller lifestyle. And I say that to people not to impress anyone, to impress upon people that even though I was highly interested in ufology and Bigfoot and conspiracies, I was not expecting my reaction to this film when I just happened to be home and watching it one night. And I said, wait a minute. Like many people, what am I watching here? That Victor's not an actor. There's no one that could speak that intelligently. And this being is weird. It's tan. It's not gray. It's got round eyes. It's not almond eyes. Why would you make a video so bad that you don't follow the norm of a gray alien?
Right, the stereotypical, right? Yeah.
You know, the medics come in gray, in their college gray T-shirts with their short sleeve medical scrubs over it. And I was thinking to myself, this is the worst hoax ever. Why would you not put these men in pressurized suits to really hype up that this is a biosafety level? And Victor is telling us, no, it's the lowest level, biosafety level 2. We knew the beings were not a contaminant to humans. And then you see these two.
So you just shrugged this off when you first saw it. You were like, this
no. I did the complete opposite. I said to myself, this is either the worst hoax I have ever seen,
Right.
or this is like
Legit.
a casual, all right, turn on the camera, let's roll, the alien's ready. And when
Okay.
I saw those two Army generals and their shoulders in the shot, and that the producer let that, if this was a hoax, let that happen, and the casualness of the thing, a stool is left in the shot, that bizarre physiological monitor that to this day we have no idea what it is to some degree. And when I heard Victor, I said, Jon, you're not looking at a hoax. That guy is real. I don't know what the complete provenance of this film is, but this is not a hoax. This is not an alien autopsy. And it was Victor that really sealed it for me.
Sorry to interrupt there, Jon, but I just have to. I think what we have to do in this discussion, because again, like I say, half of my audience is about like the ghost and paranormal, but they're so interested. Right. So I think we have to really go back to the basics and like, who is Victor? You know, who is this guy that you talk about, Victor?
Yeah.
You know?
So let me tell them, in 1996, a man claiming to be a former government employee on a pension is going around Hollywood with a 3-minute alien interview tape.
Right.
No one could secure his anonymity and his safety and security. They all wanted his legal name. They all wanted to see a driver's license for the contract, for legal. I get this.
Yeah.
Victor understood this. So he goes across the street. He gets Variety magazine. We know this now. We know the whole story now. And that will be in the documentary. He goes across the street from Fox. We know the executive that he met at Fox. Mm-hmm. We know the blocker, the woman that took the meeting. And he sees a Caddyshack, a Rodney Dangerfield golf video and for sale from a second-tier video production company called Rocket Pictures. And Victor smartly says, I bet this company will bend the rules and not need my driver's license and my legal name. And he calls them. They're in Beverly Hills. He takes a taxi cab because he doesn't drive at the time.
Right.
And
so this guy is a scientist, right? Claims to be a scientist working for...
Yes. He claims to be a scientist, a scientist and a former government employee working in an underground facility south of Area 51 at Papoose Lake called S4. Now, we found out the real name of the facility on the ground, which we'll get into.
Okay.
And so he's got an interesting story in Rocket Pictures. Like, it's like trying to... I give the example of trying to sell your 2-year-old Lexus to a Lexus dealer, and and they're being they have to have everything signed, or selling your Lexus to a used car lot.
Okay, I get you.
Right? It's to a used car, or however.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it. Oh, we'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry if the signature's not on the title, if you don't have your thing, and, as long as the car's not stolen, come on in, we'll buy it. I think that's a great analogy.
Okay.
So they bring him in, they see this tape, which is important for your viewers to know that this was not created by Rocket Pictures, the producer. This was brought to them. Whatever you think of the tape, I know for 1,000% fact it was not produced by Rocket Pictures. And I have people that were on the production of this documentary later, and people that were called the hour after Victor left to say, come in, look at this crazy tape. They make arrangements with Victor. He doesn't want to go on camera. I mean, why would you not want to go on camera? He doesn't want to go on camera. He's very hesitant. And they do the documentary in 1997, in May of 97. The documentary comes out on the Upstart Network, UPN network. Most people thought it was Fox. It wasn't. Right. It was on the UPN network on a program called Strange Universe. And this was a 1-hour special program that they aired in May of 1997. And people call it the forgotten video because it comes on the heels of the alien autopsy, which was people came out that they hoaxed it.
Was that the
Santilli?
This alien just laying on the bed. It was
right.
Was it black and white? Was it
black and white? Right.
Yeah.
Now it comes on the heels of that it was fake. People are coming out left and right that they hoaxed it. And so this didn't really get the chance it should have with people, and people call it two things. They call it the Zapruder film of the UFO world. I think that's true. Or they forgot just call it the forgotten film, because people have just like forgot about it and said, wait a minute, because it was so crazy. It was so casual. It was so unprofessionally produced, which is important, that people just kind of been like, I can't be seeing the real thing. Forget it. Let's move on. So that's the provenance of that video. And Victor disappears for 10 years, comes back in 2008, which no one realizes, in another documentary, and says, are you people idiots? I mean, like, and I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
He comes back. This alleged hoaxer comes back and says, you people are morons. You think it's real? You've done no homework to think it's real. How dare you?
Yeah.
Prove who I am. Prove the video. He tells the special effects people, if it's such a easy hoax, make one. Find the puppet maker. Nobody in America or the world has done any follow-up on my documentary that I risked my life to bring out. And he's even challenging people that say it's real, which I find I have never heard this in a hoax, where the alleged hoaxer is goading people. I just can't believe that someone would do that if it was a hoax. Says he's dying, which we now found out is untrue, because Victor is still living. He is geriatric, and I have spoken to him, and I'm not jumping forward.
Okay.
Claims he's dying, and he's telling people that don't do a 20-year anniversary of this second documentary. We might not be around, which would be around 2027, which is funny, because that is one of the years that's floating around the internet as a possible year of something happening with the world, and that's not my language.
All right.
So I find that incredibly funny. He talks about the sun causing an extinction level event with the planet. A deluge of solar flares and solar radiation causing an extinction level event.
And when did he mention this?
This is 2008, when he comes back, completely livid that no one has done anything to research this video. This video that he risked his life and his pension in jail to allegedly sneak out of Area 51, and I really don't blame him at that point.
So why do you think that he did? Was there any financial gain for him? Why do you think that he would have risked everything for this then?
Well, there is when we talk about this in the documentary, starting with Bob Lazar, there seemed to be a breakdown of morale and chain of command down at this facility S4 south of Area 51. We have Bob Lazar coming forward. We have a security guard claimed to be a black Navy SEAL, which that's not really a thing. He comes forward in 1990 after Lazar and says, they have aliens down there. I only got to level 2 where the dead aliens are. They cut off my debit card. F the government. I want to tell you what's going on. He does a 5-hour interview, strangely.
Yeah.
And then we have Victor, which we found out, and we talk about this in the documentary, that a cabal formed, a cabal of a biologist, a security guard, one of the program leaders, a Major Thomas Mack, and Victor, and a United States State Department employee. This gets very bizarre. And a DIA, Defense Intelligence Agency employee named Joseph Yeager, because the DIA, we found out in the 60s, took over the alien interrogation retention program. Not many people realize this. So
I actually stumbled across that, because I think quite a while ago, you did an interview with Richard Dolan. Yeah. And you mentioned this DIN, or was it DNI?
Well, DNI is the Department of Naval Intelligence. Well, that's one of the departments that also helps run the program down there. But the entire umbrella program is DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, which was created in the 60s to monitor, to take over from the Air Force this alien extraterrestrial program from the Air Force. It's a bizarre thing, and there were just people very, very unhappy working down there, and they were they were livid that we were not going to give this technology for the world, that we were going to keep it for defensive purposes. In the treatment of the beans, they did not jive in the very average mentality of the project leaders. And this bothered people in this facility, and they conspired, there's no other word for it, to sneak out material that would prove that what the government is doing with extraterrestrials, and they succeeded.
It's funny you should say that about how people are upset about certain things going on, because the other, the thought or the emotion that I had when I saw this, I just thought, well, obviously I felt sorry for this thing, but second of all, I just thought, if that is real, is this how we treat these extraterrestrials, right? Is this what we're going to do?
That was Victor's gripe. Yes, correct. It's funny. In the report that I got, which I'm sure we'll talk about, or the report that I got from my main whistleblower, the main leaker, my deep throat, if this was Watergate, it said once they stabilized the bean from coughing and vomiting black foam, once they stabilized him, the interview continued. like they didn't say to themselves, hey, guys, the bean's in distress. He can't breathe. He's coughing up black foam. Let's terminate this until next month. Oh, no. This is the government.
I didn't notice that. It was black foam, because I noticed that they got tissue and they're wiping something, because
they're wiping black foam from the mouth with gauze. Yeah.
So how, going back slightly, because obviously you're throwing all this stuff at us, right?
Sorry, I know.
No, it's a lot. It's absolutely fine. But I want to know how you started, almost like this journey. How did you start unraveling this information from places?
Right.
Is it just all hearsay, or these people coming to you?
Great question. I'm going to try and be real pithy here. January of 2019, I just had this documentary in my brain. I was going through some stuff in my life, and maybe it was a useful distraction. I sat in my car in my driveway, said, I'm going to find something out about this film today, right now, and I'm not leaving my car until I do. So I started researching that bizarre monitor, that just the green blip goes up and down, not across. So I called 3 PhD candidates doing the history of physiological monitors. And God bless the internet and iPhones. I sent them the clip of just the monitor. The experts in the world have no idea what this monitor is.
And just for reference, what I'll do is obviously put that up on the screen. Yeah. But it's
it's bizarre.
It's just something next to the ET.
Yeah.
And it's just blinking up and down.
Correct.
And when I was looking at it, I was thinking, is this like a heart rate, like a rhythmic?
Right.
That's
right.
It's very.
That's right.
It's quite sporadic how it is.
It's very sporadic.
And I also noticed when the coughing happened and things, it started going a little bit more haywire,
there you go.
Right?
That's correct. You're right. I'm very observant. I called Hewlett-Packard and Space Labs. These were the two companies making physiological monitors in the 90s, when allegedly, Victor tells us, 91, when this was filmed. Again, I send them, oh my God, the internet, it was so easy. I sent both major corporations, the research and development department, in physiological monitors, folks. I wasn't playing around here. Both sent them the crop clips so they didn't see the bean. I have 3 experts, and now the 2 companies that made physiological monitors. One of them, Space Labs, for NASA and Apollo missions. Both of them came back with no idea.
Really? From NASA.
The Space Labs made. I got a guy on the phone ready to retire. He was involved with physiological monitors for NASA, and he called me son, and he's like, son, I don't know what we're looking at here. Where is this from? I said, it's allegedly from an underground facility, and I said, look, allegedly it's monitoring the physiological condition of an alien. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He doesn't laugh. He doesn't hang up on me, folks. He goes, you might be looking at a one-of. I said, what's a one-of? He goes, well, in science, if you can't figure out a problem or a solution, like if you're looking for gold, you want to make a metal detector. You might be looking at a one-of, a device specially made to monitor the physiology of this being, because it's obviously not like a human's being. And I explained that to him earlier. And I'm like, this guy from Space Labs,
so they made it specifically,
for NASA, is not laughing at me. He's helping me.
Yeah.
Like you're looking at a real device here.
So
And
so basically what you're saying is they specifically made this thing purely to monitor this ET because there's no other ones out there.
And I'll tell you what we think, what they were monitoring, because it gets even creepier. So like many, and I'm sure you and your audience will agree, like many researchers from the 60s until yesterday, they go on TV, they write a book, they go on the radio, they make a documentary, and lo and behold, other people in the knowledge of what they're doing send them video, send them microfilm, send them photos, call them. And I said, look, can I go on somewhere on an internet radio show? This is 19, and try and metastasize it, get help. And I'm not bragging or patting myself on the back. It was my personality where I simply said, will everyone help me? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not familiar with this. I don't know is there anyone out there that
just
can
show
help
a little
me?
bit of vulnerability, right?
Yeah, a vulnerability. They call it in America, your hat in hand, where you're coming high. And it worked because I went on the Jeff Rentz program, an old internet radio show, still going. 2 weeks later, I start getting an email from my main leaker, the main whistleblower who risked everything. He was involved at some point in his life, I think, with the DIA that runs the alien program still to this day. But he had someone inside the DIA and he asked them about this film. Is it real? Is it not? What do you know about it? And on my birthday, after emailing me back and forth for 9 months, ladies and gentlemen, on my birthday, suspiciously, I get what's called the horse's mouth. He said, happy birthday. This is directly from the horse's mouth. And what was sent to me was not an official document, so I didn't do anything illegal. Right. But what was sent to me was someone looking at a top secret document about this film. They didn't call it a theft. They call it an unauthorized viewing, means someone who was not cleared viewed it. Yes, the American public. And it was bizarre. It said the exact date, April 22nd, 1991. The time of day, 3:15 in the afternoon, which coincides with the 4-something on the digital ticker up on top of that film, which is 3:15. So it said what type of being it was. It was a cloned biological entity from Reticulum.
So this was
go ahead.
This was I would imagine. Did you say over 9 months you spoke to this person and he sent you?
He was testing me.
Right.
This is what people in intelligence do. They test you to see if you're good, if you can follow instructions, if you can follow the rules. Are you a decent person? I know they did a background check on me. And once they were confident that, hey, we either have a useful idiot or this is a pretty decent guy that just wants to find the truth and we want the truth to come out, let's help them. I got this report and it was shocking.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That must have just blew you away. Just like a bit of information right there, right? So
my hands were shaking when I got my email and I started to scroll down. You think about this, folks. I've been trying to find out.
Sorry, John. I just for the audience, right? Because
okay.
I'm just trying to digest this as well. So this information that you got was referring to something what was going on, an interview of some sort with an ET or alien before this video came out?
No, the report was an internal investigative memo about how this film leaked out of Area 51.
Okay, I get you.
And in the report also, this person from the DIA gave us all of the men in the room. Names and ranks.
Right.
Names and ranks in 91. So it gave the whole thing. Here's how it leaked out.
Wow.
Here's who we think leaked it out. Here's everything about the being. Here's the time and date. And here were the men watching that film. Remember the shoulders we saw?
Yeah.
Here's the men watching that film. And when I saw those military names, I was in a parking lot in McDonald's in Indiana. My heart, I thought I was going to have a heart attack because it was like being led into the Golden Gates. My hand was shaking. And I started to Wikipedia the men on that list. And they were all involved with intelligence. They were all real. They all existed. And I thought, oh my God, I have history here. This is going to beat the MJ-12 documents, the Wilson Davis memos.
Yeah.
I have maybe the most important historical document in ufology in my hands. And
because that's a large extent to go to, like,
huge.
toy with you for somebody to make up that, to find all these names that have got legitimate backgrounds, and then just to send it to you. Like, why would you even do that?
My leaker is in his late 70s.
Right.
It was funny. You could tell that I was also shown the email between each other, and the man at the DIA said to him, and I won't say his name, please refrain from using my name in coordination with this information.
Right.
Like if I had sent you something, we know each other, we're friendly. Yeah. Hey, just leave my name out of it. When I saw that line, I'm like, this is not a hoax. These two are communicating with each other, and I am being privy to this communication.
Because one, he or she obviously doesn't want to get in any backlash, but also it also shows you that they don't want anything in return, right?
Nothing. He was so proud of me. That's all I can come up with in the past 9 months of him emailing me. And I call him the chairman because I realized that when he's on the board of directors of an institution. That's all I'm going to say about him. And every Tuesday that he would go to this, every one Tuesday a month, he would go. In America, you have to have an Open Meetings Act if you have a board of directors. And he went to somebody else's office on their computer to email me once a month. Hey, how are you doing? I heard you this. It was bizarre. And I found out the lady whose office he went to, and I won't say their relationship or anything like that. And if you Google this man, you'd see him on the red carpet with his wife. He's elderly. I mean, this is really, folks, I'm not playing around here. This is, and I will never reveal this man. And when he dies, I will ask the family if they would like my name to be revealed. No one knows about him, but he is a dignitary in a metropolitan city. But to see the interaction between the person at the DIA, and again, the person was obviously looking at a report, but then just transcribed it so there wasn't any top secret or anything like that. And we could all claim it was alleged, So that was very interesting that they did that they kind of bypassed top secret security mores in rules to send me this list. And then I began 6 months of investigating every person on that list, every military man on that list, with the help of Linda Moulton Howe, famed journalist.
So going back to this this blimp laser thing that was monitoring this ET, you said it was because I inadvertently just said its heartbeat, maybe breathing, but you said it actually gets weird. So know like what this thing was actually monitoring?
We think we do.
Right.
So 6 months, again, folks, 5 years ago, 6 months ago. So for 4.5 years, everyone's shrugging their shoulders, including other military intelligence assets that came to me. I have eight leakers and whistleblowers that have come to me. I blow away James Fox and David Grush and Lou Aliza. I mean, I've got almost a baseball team, I call it, of leakers. None of them know what this is. Now I see a video. I get sent a video of Whitley Strieber, the man that wrote Communion, claimed he was abducted and actually sexually assaulted by gray aliens and had experiments done on him.
Wow.
And he goes at a conference. And I'm paraphrasing him. Do you all know the 1997 alien interview? And they show it on the screen. This is why I think this is real. Whitley Strieber, abducted by aliens, New York Times bestselling author. He goes, you see that little green blip in the corner? He goes, I am here to tell you that I saw that blip out of the corner of my eye when I was writing the book Communion. It is my opinion is that is how aliens communicate or try to with human beings. I tried to put my thumb and my hand over the blip, and I could not block it out of it basically hovering over the corner of my desk. And that's why I think it's real. Wait a minute here. Remember, second tier video production company doing a funny golf video.
Yeah.
He goes, I never told anyone until today about that green blip. So I want to ask everyone, how could a second tier Hollywood production company know that this is the way aliens communicate and put that in that hoaxed video. He's like, they couldn't, they wouldn't. I told no one about that. Now, after I put that out, go ahead.
Sorry, John. Yeah, it's fine.
No, go ahead.
Because initially, when we were first having this conversation about this thing, I just assumed, because obviously from the detail that you told me about the person from NASA says it's a one-off. Oh, we've lost you. There you go.
Sorry.
That's right. It's a one-off. I just assumed that this was a man-made thing which was monitoring, but now we're saying that this was actually alien technology, right? So
we think
from what this guy says, that guy says, right?
Yes,
so if he's
correct.
been abducted and he's seen this thing,
or that the government made it in conjunction with the beings to communicate better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, okay,
yeah.
how do we communicate with you better? What do we do? Okay, what do we use? What how do we devise this monitor? That's what
because that
think.
sort of for my mind that sort of branches off then, because then you could assume that the ET was actually helping us, but by using this to say, okay,
Correct.
well, look, here we go.
Correct. So now another leaker, and I don't call him part of the 8, but he says, I just want to tell you something. I think you're doing a great job. It's real. And that device is a communication device. And I said, okay, tell me a little bit more. He said, John, the grays vibrate, electronically vibrate so much. He goes, I'm sure you must have heard people that have encountered them where their hair stands on the top of their arms. They put Vaseline on their bodies to keep the electrostatic around. He said these creatures vibrate so much that we found a way in conjunction with the beings to have a monitor to grab that electrostatic, and I'm using my own vernacular.
Yeah.
To grab the electronic vibratory emissions from these beings and collect it in a monitor, and we can tell basically the overall health of the being. And at times he said when it's blipping like that, that is telling the telepath, I'm trying to communicate with you. I am trying to communicate. So when you see it, the blip way up high, from what I was told, folks, I don't make any declarations, that the being is saying, read my mind, or I'm sending you a thought, I'm trying to communicate with you. This is what we garnered. Now, let me finish with this. FX people come out of the woodwork. Jon Stewart is crazy. We could do that with lasers on a servo. We do the experiment. Bullshit. It doesn't look anything like it. It's a piece of glass. It's bouncing a laser. We send the video to Bill Mums. He was hired by National Geographic to study the Patterson-Gimlin Bigfoot film.
Right.
Folks, I go to the top on this stuff. I went to the experts and monitors. I'm going to a national.
That's the most famous Bigfoot, right? Where it's walking along and turns around, right? Okay.
Right, correct. So the National Geographic hired him. I think that was good enough for me to hire. He said, look, I don't know if this is real or not. It was filmed on 16 millimeter. He goes, John, in 91, the only people that filmed on 16 millimeter were like the government.
Oh, really?
Maybe a couple of other movie studios, but not really. And he said that this was 16 millimeter transferred to VHS. So what you're telling, and I'm going to get to the monitor. So what you're telling me is a cheap video production company somehow got 16 millimeter film, filmed it, and then used like a computer to then turn it to VHS. And then hired a guy to go around to Fox. It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't. No.
So he goes, I'm going to send you a picture. It's going to blow your mind. That is not a piece of glass. He said that monitor is a device. He sends me the close-up highlighted. It's got metal brackings. There's a little bullet cartridge protrusion on the bracket. It's got a fin, F-I-N, around the bracket. Like it was like the NASA guy said, like somebody made this device. This is an actual, metal and glass or whatever it is device for something. This is not just some pane of glass by a hoaxer shooting a laser beam on it he totally knocked that off. He said, This is an actual manufactured device. So at that point, I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. I've got them. Go ahead.
what I was going to say is it's very unfortunate that there's no audio to that, though. That is because what I wanted to do as well, because I got to be honest with you, John, I'm getting sucked right in on this, right? Okay. But I do feel like I have to try, and later on, to try to play a little bit of devil's advocate. Okay, maybe
I want you to
throw a few curveballs and stuff, but it is strange that there is no audio. And I apparently, is it because Victor didn't want to let any basically get anybody in trouble for
in his really bad English, Victor says about why there's no sound, and listen to his speech. Is this a government project personnel or is this a screenwriter? He says, I removed the audio track so I wouldn't compromise the project personnel in the film so that their family members or friends might identify them. Does that sound like a line from a screenwriter, or does that sound like a line from a government nerd dork talking about, project personnel? I removed the audio track. It was stuff like this. I'm like, I know this guy is real. I don't know if the film is real. They found a government employee. That I was certain.
So
that's why there's no sound.
So a couple of things that I've seen on the internet, especially when I covered this video, and this is quite some time ago now. But there was one thing that people said was, why wasn't this thing blinking?
Okay, how do you know aliens blink? I'm being the devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever encountered an alien? I haven't.
No.
So how do you know that they blink? We have been told by my 8 whistleblowers and many other people is that black is a bio lens. It is a biological lens that their retinas are very similar, almost identical to humans, only the size of like deer in the woods, and that lens is a bio lens. It is actually a biological material.
Right.
I was told this by somebody from the National Air and Space Center who's in these programs, and that is used for 2 reasons: as an eye protectant for any contaminant, and for shielding their massive eyeballs from an overabundance of light.
Right.
So,
because I was going to say, there's plenty of insects that don't blink, and they just clean themselves.
Right. I mean, that's just such a specious argument. He doesn't blink. How do you know aliens blink? So but it is a removable bio lens that many beings use as a protective coating and to block overabundance of light. And you notice that the light is coming from top. It is not shined directly in your eye. And I know for myself, I have a little brain damage from wrestling. I cannot have light in my eye, but on top of my bald head, it's fine.
Yeah.
And the light on the bean is above him, not in his face.
Well, this was my next question as well, because again, there's lots of assumptions in this. I would assume they're documenting this for their own records. Okay.
Correct.
So why would you document something which is so important to the human race in a dark room? Why wouldn't you try to light this up really well? Let's get really good, close up, get the best quality film that we can.
I will send you the photo. It was not this dark when Victor handed over the VHS tape. The production company darkened it for dramatic effect. And if you see the original, you would go, ugh,
right. So it's like a vignette going on.
It's grainy. Yeah, it's grainy and it's got a blue hue. I will send that to you when we are done with this interview so you can put it on the screen. So yes, and I agree with people. Why is it so dark? The production company did that for dramatic effect. This video in VHS form from Victor was very grainy, gray and blue, grainy. And when you see it, it looks like a closed circuit camera film. It's unbelievable. And you see the thorax, you see the arms of the creature, obviously not trying to hurt everything, but the room is kept basically a lower level of light. And that is for, as Victor said, the comfort of the creatures.
Right, beings. When creatures, animals, insects have large eyes, it's usually to allow a lot of light in.
Well, we are just the opposite, that their eyes are just like human beings, only 5 times the size, and that they're actually sensitive to light. and their planet that this one comes out of, in many grays, is very bright, and so they need this bio lens cover because their eyes are so bright that they take in too much light.
Right.
So they're actually feel very more comfortable in a dimmer light setting than and which is, I don't know, is that why a lot of abductions, a lot of landings, a lot of interaction happens at night? Do they feel more comfortable at night? I don't know. I think that's something to speculate. I don't say that definitively. I just think that's something to speculate about.
Yeah, because there is, I mean, I'm going to throw this in there because I know that there's an awful lot of medics and doctors and psychiatrists on the internet in the comment section, but I did notice that a few people were saying at like basic 101, when you have to go to somebody because they're in stress or you're trying to help them of some sort, you don't operate or help from the back. Why didn't they get in front of this thing and try to help?
Sure. There was a table 3 to 4 inches directly in front of this beam.
Oh, right.
So there was no room to get in. Number 2, we have talked to 2 or 3 people that were in the audio visual documentation in the military, and they're like, oh, get in front of something when something's going on, and you get your, excuse my English in my language, you'll get your ass chewed out for a week. Like, they don't want you to interfere, which is why they make careful care of not really getting in front of the creature as much. But the doctor does stick his entire head with his torchlight, and he doesn't shine it in the eyes, and shines it in the nasal cavity, in the ocular cavity, looking for hemorrhaging, because when this creature was coughing, they were worried, like when you vomit, you blow your capillaries out.
Yeah.
And they were simply looking in the nasal and ocular cavities for hemorrhaging. They were not shining the torchlight in their eye. And he did get in front of the creature at one point, but you get in. I could just see an army general, and this thing is coughing up foam, and they want to see the physiology, and you're the doctor that gets in front of it for a minute and a half. You're going to get your ass chewed out. I mean, I've been told this. So is that the reason? I don't know. And I hope your viewers appreciate my candor. I don't know. I am simply speculating that they took great care to keep the visual documentation of this being at the forefront while trying to help him stabilize from his respiratory attack.
Yeah, because I think we also have to echo you've approached this in the idea that it's a hoax, to try to debunk
Correct.
it, right?
Thank you for saying that.
And as you've tried to do it, more and more things come to light, which basically goes the opposite end. Yeah.
Right. 30 years, no one in Hollywood has come forward to say I was part of it in any shape or form. 30 years, no one with specific documentation can come forward and say I was part of that 3-minute film. That has never happened with a hoax film or documentary ever.
And the other thing is as well, I think that when this first came to light, was it 96, wasn't it? 96, 97?
May of 1997.
97, sorry.
That's right.
But back then, a huge majority of the population just thought aliens, UFOs, tinfoil hat, just dismissed it. But now, and this is another reason why I'm so happy about covering UFOs, aliens, and things like that, is because I find it so mind-boggling how we've gone from total dismissal to now a very large population believe in UFO, believe in aliens. Because, I think it's because finally the government have said, yes, there's something up there we don't know.
Correct.
Because I think some people need to hear it from officials to say, okay, now I believe. I think that if you spoke about this back in 97, I don't think you'd be where you are now. I really don't.
No.
But now finally, people are listening to you, and it must feel great, right?
Yeah, it's great that the men who have come forward to help me, risking their pensions, their life, their career, even just irritating by the government and they all know that my phone has been electronically encursed by the United States government. I mean, I pretty much was told that by the Apple Corporation. So these men really have taken a great risk to help me and guide me. And I will say this until, till forever. If it wasn't for the internet, I would have never been able to, the people on the internet, the ability to communicate quickly with people on the internet. So yeah, so it's the timing, it's the men and the internet. It's all come together, and we've had so many serendipitous moments in this investigation that it's been incredible.
We're going to go in a little bit more detail in a second, but I just want to ask you, on a personal level, how has this dive into the truth affected you? Because it's a big, what you're doing is a big thing, just for your name, who you are. I mean, you were a pro wrestler, a public figure. It's a lot to risk. how has it affected you emotionally emotionally, physically, mentally?
Yeah, it's aged me. Great question, and thank you for asking that, because very few people ask, "How are you doing?"
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. I've been through double sessions in the summer of high school football practice with Catholic, crazy coaches. I've gone through pro wrestling camp in the territory days in the mid '80s. I've stood by and watched my mother die, take her last breath. I've done a lot of hard things in my life. This has been by far the hardest thing I've ever done. I don't know if it was just to keep up the grind, to wake up every morning and without any money, any compensation, actually putting my money in to say, am I going to make 30 phone calls today? Am I going to research the obituaries today? Who can I call today? Where can I fly? Where can I drive today to research that? Trying to spend time with your wife and my daughters and my family, still taking care of my family business, which I had up until 2 years ago, until we leased out our property and stuff. But just trying to maintain life while having this crazy side life that was consuming every bit of my waking moment. It was an unbelievable ordeal. And thank you for asking.
Yeah, no problem. It sounds like you've got a very supportive family, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Scott Walter from American and Unearthed on the History Channel, if people remember him. I contacted him way early on, and he said, no matter what Hollywood says, no matter what anybody in the government says, remember, you're still a businessman. You have to go make a living every day. Then you can concentrate on this. So in between things with my business life, I would be researching or sending or, calling, and then go back to my business life. And like I said, it was almost every waking moment. That's all my house did. My
Yeah.
wife encountered was me watching documentaries nonstop just to kind of get information, and it was successful. It helped me.
Yeah.
It was a crazy 5 years, and I thank God my friends, family, and coworkers and everybody really pitched in to just be like, hey, let's support him, let's support Jon. But
Yeah.
it's been a crazy 5 years, and it's definitely emotionally and physically took its toll on me.
Yeah, I
No
bet.
doubt about it.
I bet. Obviously, you are clearly a passionate person, right? And I think that just down to like the pro wrestling in itself, it takes a lot of commitment and drive. And I think that, this is clearly an itch that you just couldn't stop itching, and you just had to. It was like tunnel vision to get the information, right? Now,
That's right.
I would have imagined that maybe it started off a little bit like, oh, let's find this, but it just, as it unraveled, it just became more and more intense for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I've actually been criticized for telling people, look, I'm an alpha male, and that drive, that focus of I've got to solve this. I'm in the game. I'm on the board. I'm not getting off the board until I solve this. And people criticize me for the saying alpha male. You know, I just kept it. What kept driving me was that no one was coming forward with any credible information to debunk it.
Right. Yeah.
And I asked people, what would you do? If you have 8 military intelligence people telling you something, if you've got the expert in videography, in special effects telling you one thing. If you have special effects artists telling you that it's fake, but they can't tell you why it's fake.
Yeah.
If you have no one coming forward laying claim to be part of this hoax, if you have two elderly men telling you this is who was there, this is the date, this is what type of being this was, what would you do if as your listeners? Would you go forward? Would you have the drive and encouragement to say, I'm going to solve this? Or would you give up? I don't think many would give up. I think many would say, I'm onto something. I'm
Absolutely.
going to
Yeah.
solve this as much as I can.
Absolutely. And then, because you said earlier, before I jumped into the question about yourself, you mentioned you got sent a list of names, right? These hierarchy names. Right. Okay. Can you explain about that, please?
Sure. So it said, time, date, what type of being this was, how long the interview lasted, that they stabilized it, and the interview continued. Then it said, this below are a list of men who were in the room watching or viewing this alien thought projection interview. That's what they called it. So the first name.
That's like telepathy, right?
Yeah, telepathy. But only you get the picture in your mind, which is strange.
Oh, okay.
Even more bizarre than telepathy. The first person on the list was Army intelligence. So my hand started shaking. Like, I don't want to. I tried to look for him. Couldn't find him. The next person on the list, he's dead. I've said his name, was Rear Admiral Ned Schaefer. He was the intelligence liaison to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he was General Colin Powell's right-hand man when it came to intelligence. And you'll need to know this, was in the Oval Office briefing the first George Bush, the president.
Right.
You need to know that he was in. I have him in the Oval Office. The next person on the list was a Dr. Craig McPherson. So I Googled Craig McPherson. I find out he's a cardiologist in Connecticut. I start stalking his office. They're hanging up on me, and I wanted to almost get like an appointment.
Yeah.
He was a cardiologist and then became a pulmonologist in lungs. And I'm like, oh my God. In 91, he was with the VA as a pulmonologist. What's the beans problem? Breathing, lungs. I said, oh my God, it's him. Come to find out years later, I got the wrong Craig McPherson. The Dr. Craig McPherson on this list was a man that Linda Moulton Howe interviewed, who claimed and said, yes, I was a scientist at Area 51. I didn't work with aliens, but I was a scientist in Area 51. He is the Craig McPherson on this list. The next name was a captain of, I won't say his name, I do in the documentary, captain of naval intelligence.
Uh-huh.
So I Wikipedia him. He retired 3 years ago as a vice rear admiral. So I said, this list's a hoax. It says he's a captain. My one investigator goes, are you stupid? This list is from 1991. His rank in 91 was probably a captain. And then he retired a vice admiral. I'm like, oh my God. But thank God somebody told me that, because I would have thrown the list away. I call him. I start emailing him. He is emailing me back. I don't tell him really what's going on. I tell him I'm a documentarian. We've had such a good exchange that I was almost going to fly to Virginia to play golf with them or take them out to lunch.
Yeah.
This is the cordiality of our emails. He said, look, I know you want to tell me something or show me something. What do you got?
Yeah, he ain't stupid, is he?
Not stupid. So I said, look, I ran for public office. I helped save the North Chicago VA. My dad was in the military. When I ran for Congress, the military was the top of my campaign platform. I sent him the whole memo, shebang with his name on it. He ghosts me. He doesn't return my email. I keep emailing him. He won't return my email. I've had a military person tell me, honorable men and women in the military who don't want to lie to you will just stop talking to you. He goes, I think that's what's happening. He doesn't want to lie to you. He knows the gig is up. He sees it. He knows this is probably real. He doesn't want to poke you anymore. He doesn't want to lead you on, and he doesn't want to lie to you. He's just going to ghost you. Dr. Michael Sala of Exopolitics, podcaster. He's on. He I give him the email. He emails him. He does return Dr. Sala's email. So, folks, he is a real person.
Yeah.
And Dr. Sala said that he wrote back, I just don't want to have any, I don't
want to
feel
get
like
involved
commenting on anything with that has to do with the alleged film that you're talking about. So huge, like bombshell there. Now the next person on the list is another doctor. And again, I say his name in the documentary. I find his wife. Oh,
uh-huh
yeah, folks. You don't think I went deep in the weeds. I went deep in the weeds. I find his widow, his second wife, who's a widow. I call her up. She's like 79 years old. I said, I'll say her name is Kim. And can you imagine explaining this to an elderly woman about her husband?
Yeah.
I said, I don't want you to hang up on me. I just want you to hear me out. This came across the desk. I'm a documentarian. I was told that your husband, I didn't say he was a doctor, that your husband might have been involved with a covert program involving extraterrestrials out at Area 51. Now I'm waiting for the click hang up, and she's sitting there. She's like, that's very interesting, John, and you're kind of solving a family secret. I turned around and I'm like, this wait.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? She's like, there was a really bone of contention, and she used his nickname, which is on this memo from the DIA. There was a big bone of contention between my husband and myself that he never wanted to talk about his time in the U.S. Army Medical Corps. I didn't say that. That was on the list. I didn't even know what the U.S. Army Medical Corps was.
Yeah.
I said, Kim, what is the U.S. Army Medical Corps? Plain stupid, but I was stupid. She's like, that's the unit where doctors are trained and doctors enlist in the Army. And she said, John, all of our friend groups have been in Korea, World War II, Vietnam. They all talk about humorous, funny stories about boot camp or their drill instructor. And my husband uses his nickname, would never, ever, ever say anything about his time in the medical corps. All of our friends behind his back would say, what did he do? What is going on with him?
Yeah.
Why is he so
Because you would give a little bit, right?
A little bit. What the food was like and wherever he did basic training. And this woman, this elderly 79-year-old woman is telling me that I'm solving a family secret, a problem between her and her husband. She's like, we almost separated because he was so quiet.
Jeez.
And what does Victor say 30 years earlier? The medical staff at it's S4 are not top flight. They are more chosen for their ability to keep secrets than their medical knowledge.
Right.
Victor says this 30 years prior. She knows nothing about this documentary, this footage. I send her the footage. She said, that's my husband. I said, who's your husband? She said, the doctor to our left, the beings right, that's my husband. She tells me an actor that was on a 50s sitcom in America, The Honeymooner. And I go find the actor. He's got a pointed nose. He looks like this guy in the mask. He said, my husband looks just like him. That's my husband.
No.
And I'm like, well, and I use Kim. I'm like, Kim, that's not her name. Where do we go from here? She's like, I don't know. She's like, but the light bulb has now come over my head.
Yeah.
And you've really helped me. I feel relieved. She's not laughing. She's not hanging up. She's not calling me crazy. She goes, my daughter lives in the Chicago suburbs. May I give you her name and phone number in case you ever want to contact her about her stepdad and so on and so forth. Here's this woman is inviting me to Thanksgiving dinner, not telling me to go piss off and never call me again.
You've got so much.
What would your viewers do? What would you do at that point?
Yeah, right.
One senior citizen sending me a list of another senior citizen and another senior citizen telling me, oh yeah, that's my husband. I don't know what the film is, but that's my husband.
It's like the stars have just all aligned for you in places. No, I'm not saying that what you've done is easy, but what I'm saying is you must have a way of, with your persistence, your tunnel vision, but also your character to have trust in people. People have trust into you that just gives you this information, or easy to talk to. I was saying, and clearly you are, because I clearly talk to you quite well. But it's amazing how you've got
like
that.
You said, that humbleness. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine.
You said it, that humbleness. And I'm not saying I am humble, but I can dial it down and say,
Yeah.
can you help me? I'm sorry. I've said this to everyone. I'm sorry to bother you. Please don't hang up. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
there must have been something inside of me that had these people. The Admiral and I were going to play golf.
Yeah.
Now you don't tell me I'm crazy. You don't tell me the film's a hoax. I've never been part of it. You just stop emailing me.
So is this where it sort of ends for you? I mean, is there any like more information?
Well, yes and no.
Mm.
So I 16 millimeter. I know the time and date, the type of being, the men in the video and whatnot. There's one more bombshell, but so I take this now to the New York Times, right? What in any
Yeah.
no, Hollywood doesn't believe me. So I talked to Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Keane. They're stringer reporters for the New York Times.
Yeah, journalists, aren't they? Yeah.
Who did the 17 Tic Tac video release.
Uh-huh.
And they
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
They broke that story.
Wow.
And they saw this. I sat with them for 4 hours. I laid it all out. I told them everything about everything I knew. And they said if a military person who's currently employed with the military is willing to come out and come forward, we got a deal. David Grush comes forward weeks later and says we have biologics in craft. We've got them. The United States military has them. And they still thought that the New York Times editors still would not run the story because it's crazy. It's a live alien on video. So go ahead.
No, because I don't want to digress. Carry on with what your train of thought was.
Yeah. So you just keep. I sent this to 37 media outlets. Was turned down by every single media outlet except for one, the AmericanThinker.com. And my story was edited. I didn't get in the woods, but I told them about how the military, the intelligence community was stalking me and getting into my phone. And this is against the Constitution. And they published my story. But most newspapers were like, there ain't no way we are doing this. So the bombshell of the bombshells, when you think about a cheap video production company, I'm watching a Linda Moulton Howe documentary about Ronald Reagan getting briefed in 1980 about extraterrestrials. On the top of every one of Ronald Reagan's papers is 27. I said to myself, wait a minute, there's 27 on that film. I call up an intelligence person, one of my leakers. I said, tell me what 27 means. What is 27? I said, it's on the bottom of that film. He said, I didn't even realize that. He said, 27 is Yankee White. I'm like, okay, what's Yankee White? He said, that is the security level, the security designation. Folks, how could a Hollywood writer think of this or know this?
Yeah.
That is the security designation to get inside Area 51 and the S2, S4 facility. Yankee White. He goes, so if it was on the Ronald Reagan briefings and it's on your film, he said, if you did not possess the number 27 Yankee White security level clearance, you would have to walk away or stop watching that alien interview. You couldn't see those Ronald Reagan documents. I had other military people tell me Yankee White is the code word, and R4800 is the code words to get into the S2, the S4 facility at Papoose Lake, where the alien retention and interrogation.
Because I think you
how
said,
could a screenwriter know
no,
this?
exactly. But you actually sent me the photo there, right?
Yes.
Because you've got a building on the left and a building on the right, and it's
right.
Yeah.
That is the S2 Alpha Annex. That is the top level of this underground facility where the reverse engineering of craft and beans did take place from 1962 to about 1997. Fact, put it in the bank. We have the FOIA document of Congress allocating money to build that building. I got the FOIA document for that. So we know the facility's there. We know the code name to get in. It's on the bottom of that film. There's no way a Hollywood screenwriter would have known 27. And the DNI on that film is Department of Naval Intelligence. We now have 3 people in one document proving this agency that does not exist to this day does exist. We've got a naval aviator claiming that they tried to hire him before he went to Naval Aviator School. We've got the IRS telling us that the tax ID number is top secret. They couldn't give us any information. We have a conference brochure in Canada on
So what do you say about the ID number?
Okay, Bob Lazar has Department of Naval Intelligence on a pay stub.
Right.
And we ran the federal tax ID number that every employer in America has to have.
Uh-huh.
And the IRS told us and another investigator.
It's like our UTR number, right?
There you go. We can't give you any information about it. It's a top secret. It's under wraps. They use that term. It's under wraps. We can't give you any information. We can't even get any information about it. We have the naval aid that said no. DNI is an agency in the Department of Navy. It's where the spooks hang out, like the CIA spooks. We had a person from the CIA who owns a microbrewery now. I know it sounds like a joke. I cornered him at his bar. And I said, I'm working on something. Is the DNI, Department of Naval Intelligence, real? He's like, yeah, it is. And he kind of caught himself. And went into the back room and didn't come out for 20 minutes. He must have been like, what the hell did I just do?
What did I just do? Yeah, all that training.
I have a Canadian intelligence conference brochure where one of the speakers, and I've emailed him, he hasn't emailed me back. One of the speakers is blah, blah, blah. Where's he from? The United States Department of Naval Intelligence, not Office of
DNI.
Naval Intelligence. I want to be specific. Department of Naval Intelligence. It doesn't exist, but it exists on an intelligence brochure at a Canadian intelligence conference. So we have totally blown that out of the water that existed, and that was on that. I was on that alien interview film. Why?
Wow.
Why?
Yeah. All these. I mean, there's a little bit too many Easter eggs there, isn't there? You know.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
You know, and they call it an owner's signature. That documentation, which was very expensive to do on a 16mm film, is called an owner's signature.
Right.
And they do that to say this is. And we were told that the session you're watching was being run by the Department of Naval Intelligence.
Right.
They were asking the question.
Yeah.
To this being during that little 15-minute segment.
So it's like almost like a little. It's like a unique like watermark, right?
Watermark, correct.
Yeah.
And what the level is you need to have to watch this film.
Wow.
Number 27, Yankee White.
Crazy. And
I mean, what else do you want me to do? I mean, it's like crazy.
You mentioned near the beginning about this particular ET. Now, from what I gather, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of ET, right?
Correct.
Do we know what type of alien this is?
Yeah, they called it an other gray, but we've since found out this is a CBE, a clone biological alien, extraterrestrial entity number 2, type 2, and allegedly, what we've been told that it came from Zeta Reticulum, the number 2 planet. There's 1 and 2 planet, or 1 or 2 stars. No, the Zeta Reticuli star system, planet number 2, and others come from planet 1. This is what we were told. I'm honest. I can't verify any of that. But
I assume
but it
that
was a
came
cloned biological entity.
Right. So I assume that information came from the ET, right? Through the communications.
And then my leakers then told me. Correct.
This is mind-boggling. It really is.
Yeah.
And so, with all this information that you found out, purely for this alien interview, what else have you discovered or learnt about ET? Have we got more aliens that people are doing experiments on? How many are they on Earth? Are they just like? What's going on here? What do you know?
Well, now we're talking in speculation because I've never seen complete documentation. But the people that have told me this have never, anything they've ever said has always bared out to be true. That there's hundreds of beings. That first of all, that there are no longer any living beings in captivity. So we are told.
Right.
But there are literally hundreds of deceased beings spread out all over the country. We have been told everywhere from Walter Reed Hospital in the 40s, Homestead Air Force Base in Florida, the Wright-Patterson Blue Room in Dayton, Ohio, Papoose Lake, south of Area 51, has still 6 bodies in cryogenic liquid storage. And most of the bodies have been moved to the high-tech underground facility under Michaels Airfield at the famous Dugway Proving Ground in Utah. And this transfer of material, metal and biological, was done sometime in 1997, 1998. And that's where the majority of these beings are being stored.
And, how did are these from crashes? Are these from, how are we collecting these aliens?
Yeah. Some have crashed. Some have been brought down. Again, folks, I'm speaking allegedly.
Yeah,
I hope you appreciate my candor.
Absolutely.
Some have been brought down by gunfire, cannon fire, howitzer fire. Some have been brought down allegedly by electric pulse technology that we have developed. Some have been brought down, like Roswell, where I wrote the second Roswell crash book, have been brought down allegedly by electrical interference due to thunderstorms.
Right.
Some have crashed on purpose, like Victor gives the analogy, like Jesus Christ, letting himself be crucified, coming to earth, letting himself be crucified by humankind. And so we have been told that some of these beings have intentionally landed, intentionally let themselves be captured for whatever reason. So there's a plethora of alleged reasons why these craft have come down on Earth.
And in your opinion, do you think these beings are good, or do you think they're a threat?
I would answer that what were we like when we visited the Amazon for 50 to 60 years in the 1800s until recently? Did some of us go for scientific reasons and we were careful about interacting with natives? Sure. Did some go for the pure thrill of it and really weren't conscious about what damage they would do to the environment and to the native Indians in the Amazon? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did some people go and make mistakes and deaths occurred? Sure. I think it's, in my opinion, it is a gambit of all of that. I think there are some with great intentions.
Right.
I think there's some with scientific intentions. I think there's some who were our progenitors, who made us, who created us. They were the source code for our religion. Yes, I think that also. And I think there are some that really don't care about us. I think that's the majority. Don't care about us, but they're not going to interfere. And I've been told this a million times, and they're not going to let us blow ourselves up.
Right. Okay. I think that's the first time I've ever heard an answer which is, it's not so black and white, because you get a lot of people saying, "Oh, they're good. They just want to look after us," and they're just observing. Or you get the others like, "No, they're evil. They're demons. They want to destroy us, or they want this planet." But you've literally just had a bit more of an open mind as to there's lots of different thoughts, opinions, feelings that these aliens may have.
Right.
Why do you have to separate them in one area?
Yeah, I give the example of a river, anywhere in the world. Are you going to get your knucklehead 10 and 12-year-olds that throw rocks at the fish and kill them in the river? Of course, they don't mean any harm. Are you going to get the scientist that wants to carefully examine them and extract semen and eggs and maybe create fish and then repopulate that stream? Are you going to get the fisherman that's very careful and catches them and photographs them and gently releases them back into the stream? Of course. Are you going to get a fisherman that's there to feed his family with those fish? Of course.
Yeah.
And I believe that since we have been created from the lineage of some of these beings, that we also have to expect in a scientific mindset that we are going to have the gambit of every kind of behavior from these aliens, just like we would with human beings of all kinds encountering a lake or a stream full of fish and wildlife.
Yeah. There's two more questions.
Sure.
The first one is, with all this going on, how much have you actually worried about your own self? Because since I personally have been, covering UFOs and aliens and things like that, I do get the old comment on Twitter and emails and stuff, be careful, stay away, don't cover this, I think I've just got a bit of thick skin, maybe, or I take it with a pinch of salt. How do you feel about this?
It's been at times terrifying. because they're stealing emails off my phone. This is Apple Corporation telling me this. These are professional hackers who told me there's only two G's that can steal emails off your iPhone. One's God, and you know who the other G is, the government. And so, when Apple Corporation tells you we have no idea who is doing this to your phone, you have to start to think that, and I was told by an intelligence asset that some intelligence agency is using a program called Stingray Centipede, which allows them to, electronically encrypt your phone and just look at your documents. It's more done for intelligence purposes than, some kind of that you're doing illegal activity. But I will also tell you that I had someone that also told me, they're like, look, they don't kill people anymore for this, especially over gray aliens.
Right.
I'm like, okay, that's a little unnerving. He said, what they will do is try and make you crazy. And he goes, John, I've known you for 5 years. You've been screaming at your phone, screaming at your wife, screaming at people on the internet. Did it work? Have they ruined parts of your business during the day at times because you don't have emails or phone numbers? Have they interfered in your life? Yes. And have they basically tried to make you crazy? Yes. They succeeded. I mean, I'm not, I'm talking about the aggravation level and consternation and absolute chaos that they've caused in my business life for having emails being swiped and phone numbers and names being swiped. It's caused chaos in my life. So yes, it's been frightening, but more aggravating. And I'm just here to say, I'm trying to be a good Englishman and old school Englishman to be like, it was a good fight. We did our best, me and the intelligence community of America. Let's just go to our corners. I did what I did. You did what you did. Let's call it a draw and move on with life. And I basically, not have been bothered, since I kind of sent emails that I'm no longer investigating. I don't want any FOIAs answered, and I'm not going to appeal any FOIA requests. So the heat is basically on, I hope.
Yeah. And finally, I think you have to talk about your is it the alien interview case closed documentary that you're bringing out? I think that's next month, isn't it?
Yes, will be out on November 28th, which is America's Thanksgiving night. You can view it that night and video on demand after that, so you don't have to be there right there but tickets go on sale October 28th. All you simply have to do is go to huntingvictor.com, if you don't mind displaying that when you produce this.
Absolutely.
Huntingvictor.com. You'll see the link. It's $8.88. It's trying to get us even, get our money back. What we spent about $25,000 on this.
Yeah.
Which may not be a lot for people, but it's a lot to me.
Yeah, and, absolutely. It is a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
We're just trying to get paid back.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to dish out when you think originally that you're not going to get anything back in return, And I think that, respect to you going on these podcasts, doing these interviews, putting your face out there, your name out there. I think that this is just it's just a great way, I think, releasing this interview, case closed. It's just another way of getting your voice out there and just saying, look, this is what I saw. Believe it or don't believe it, but this is the information that I've got.
And we found Victor.
Right.
1,000%. I found who Victor was. And that makes me happy because that was the original onset. I got to find this guy. It was like trying to find your orphan father for 30 years.
Yeah.
I found him. I've spoken to him. He's a hostile witness, but that's okay. When you see the information we have and the photos that we have, you'll be like, oh my God, he actually found him. So we're happy about that. And for the rest, folks, it's up to you to decide. It's up to you to now, your audience and the internet and UFO community, take the reins and do what you want with it. And you take the ball and move it forward if you can.
Absolutely, John. I think I'm looking forward to seeing the comments on this video, because I think originally when most people, when you just get thrown a video at you, of this alien being worked on in a dark room, you just take it as face value. You just go, what you take it as a hoax or you take it as real. But now with a little bit more information about it, I think that we can come up with our own ideas, with a little bit more information.
It's definitely going to make your viewers' eyebrows raised.
Yeah,
And you know what?
absolutely.
That's all I've asked. This was a sincere journey, a sincere investigation. I am telling your audience exactly what happened to me. All I want to do is raise your eyebrow to go, wait a minute, something
Yeah.
is going, which is what I've said after 5 years. I got Victor, but with this film, something's going on here. I
Yeah.
might not know what it is. Something is going on here.
Jon Stewart, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. God bless you, your viewers. Thank you for allowing me to come on and speak to all of you. I really appreciate it. And God bless all of you.
Brilliant.